What's up? It's Adrian. Welcome back to the Brown Bougie or Bourgeoisie, however you want to call it. So, months ago I decided that I wanted to get into cinema more. Specifically, I wanted to get into the Mexican films that I grew up watching in Texas and in Mexico. The movies of La Época de Oro, the golden age of Mexican films. So in my research, actually, I was thinking that I was going to run into familiar movies that I grew up watching, and lo and behold, I did not find a lot. Why, you might ask? Well, turns out that what I thought I knew about Mexican classics was not all that accurate. What do I mean by that? So through my research, I discovered when I was watching discovering these movies that I never heard of, I realized that what I thought was classical films may not be classical films. So let me give you some context, okay? Let me give you some back. And by the way, when I say me, I don't really mean me. I mean, I'm going to use a book that I really looked into. This is called The Classical Mexican Cinema. It's by Charles Ramirez Burge, author. He's also a professor at UT Austin. So in it, Burge basically describes two different styles of filmmaking during that time. The time of the golden era is from the 1930s to the 1950s. Classical Mexican cinema and mainstream Mexican cinema. So basically, mainstream Mexican cinema, he describes as being those sort of movies that followed a Hollywood format. You know, everything from the way Hollywood was doing things at the time and arguably still today. So things like the movie, the studio system, the producing styles, the editing styles, the 3-act storytelling, and the happy ending. Those are the mainstream movies. And so in Mexican cinema, so those are the movies that we might associate as being part of this golden era. Movies like from very well-known actors of the time, like maybe Pedro Infantes, Tintan, those sort of names. So what Burge talks about in his book is this other style, this classical Mexican cinema, which pertains to directors, alternative directors who were doing, who were not really following that Hollywood format. They really were trying to tell stories that really showed what, you know, the author described as lo mexicano, the Mexicanness. They really had a sense of identity and through their storytelling. So let me give you some background on Luis Buñuel. Luis Buñuel is a Spanish director. He had already been making films in Europe for about 2 decades before he came to Mexico. But when he came to Mexico, he had to sort of prove himself that he could be allowed to do the film that he wanted to do. But the way he proved himself is that he basically had to do a commercially successful movie to be able to do the movie that he wanted to do, which is, I feel like it's a story that I've heard about other Hollywood directors. You know, prove that you can do this little art piece. So that's what he did. So Buñuel, before 1950, he did this commercially successful movie, La Gran Calavera. By the way, I tried watching it, couldn't even stand through the first 20 minutes. But this movie, Los Olvidados, definitely left me captivated, even though a part of me was thinking, am I going to pay too close attention or try not to, because I know at some point somebody's going to bust out with a song, singing their woes, but none of that, which to me would be an indicator of that, you know, that it's not the mainstream Mexican cinema. So that being said, if you watch this movie, keep in mind what I just said about the Hollywood style of making, you know, mainstream movies. That's not what this is. If you're looking for that, that's not what this is. But I did find it to be hugely captivating. Now, I didn't know anything about Buñuel or the fact that he came back from a surrealism background. I didn't have any background. So again, the book, you know, gives you a little information about, you know, that. So as I'm reading little background on surrealism, you know, the importance of dreams and whatnot, I'm thinking, why does that sound familiar? I was like, wait, that's basically a Mexican ideal. You just, like, seriously, like, just ask any Mexican mom, and it doesn't even have to be your Mexican mom. Ask any Mexican mom what they dreamt about last night and see how much in detail they go over their dreams, what happens, and the significance of their dream. So you're gonna see a lot of these things in Buñuel's films. So I know like Buñuel uses a lot of like animals in his films. So in this film, you're gonna watch out, for things like birds and a couple of dogs in there that serve as metaphors for the film. Yeah, so this is not really much of a review because I don't have a background in film criticism, but I personally found it very engaging and captivating, even though I sort of got a sense of where the movie was going to go or not go, because I know it didn't follow a mainstream format. It followed what Burge described as classical Mexican filmmaking. I still was captivated by the characters, which let me set it up for you. So the movie starts by introducing us to two of the protagonists, Jaibo and Pedro, which to me, by the way, I feel like you might even need a trigger warning before watching this film. Even by today's standards, it shows like a lot of trauma. Like I basically feel the film is about this kid, Pedro, trying to survive in the midst of continually being traumatized and reliving things. Like some of the things that you would probably today be categorized as the kid experiencing, some sort of PTSD syndrome because of what he experienced. Even the first 10 minutes, he's dealt with another big, trauma, and then basically follows him trying to either overcome it or trying to live through that trauma, or trying, has like sort of, ethical or moral struggle that this kid, like this 11-year-old is going through, at the time. So like I said, I was very captivated by the film. Even though I knew sort of where it may end up, as an audience member, especially if you're emotionally invested in the characters, you might struggle with still wanting to see or it go a certain way for you. But like I said, this is not a movie review. I definitely encourage you to check it out. If you're more knowledgeable of the artistic surrealism movie than I am, then definitely watch out for those things, those elements of there's even like a dream sequence in there with like mixed with some metaphors in there that you might understand better than me. So I definitely invite you to check out the movie, look out for those things, do a quick research. They're available on YouTube. There's one in Spanish there's English subtitles, and I believe there's one with Italian subtitles. So again, and if you want to get more information, you do your own research. There's a lot of resources, but I think this is definitely a pretty good one. Again, the book is called Classical Mexican Cinema, and I'm not being even sponsored. I'm not getting compensating for anything. The only compensation I'm getting is the internal compensation of bringing knowledge to you guys. And I didn't even buy the book, okay? So, or finish reading it for that matter. It's a little too, which is okay, because someone told me that sometimes in books you don't need to read everything to get something out of it, and I feel like, yeah, kind of. In a sense, I feel like books are kind of like relationships. You get what you get out of them, and you don't necessarily have to finish it. I guess you could say that the way I would describe it is, I guess you can say that I'm not a long-term relationship kind of guy. Anyhow, like I said, I encourage you to check that out and make your own. I encourage you to check it out and sort of expand your awareness of what Mexican films of that golden age era can be. See you guys.